Welcome to the Payments Leaders Summit podcast, where the brightest minds and trailblazers in the payments industry come together to share insights, strategies, and the latest innovations shaping the future of finance.
Hi, I'm Mike Chambers. I'm the founder of Northey Point, and I'm also an advisor at the Payment Systems Regulator. We're here today at the PLS UK Summit here in London, and it's my privilege to be joined by Paul Horlock to talk about innovation and changes in payments. But just before we start asking the questions, let me just hand over to Paul to introduce himself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Paul Horlock. I'm the Chief Payments Officer at Santander UK, and I've worked in the payment industry in the UK for a number of years now.
Paul, that's the introductions done. Let's have a conversation and get your views on a couple of things. A few months ago, we saw a paper issued by the Bank of England around innovation in payments. I was particularly interested in your views on what does that paper, what's the opportunity of that paper mean to you, and what you and Santander and other industry players might be doing to support the themes that are in that paper?
Yeah, Mike, it's a great opportunity. We're really excited about the paper because we've been in conversation with a number of other institutions directly with the bank for a while now around what is it we think needs to happen in this space, particularly from a wholesale and retail perspective. And we've been talking initially about what CBDC might mean, but also then what tokenized deposits might mean. And if you look at the paper, there's a lot in the paper around the bank's reason for being there, the anchor of money in the UK, that singleness of money and how regulated money should be the basis of what we do in the UK. But there's a really good section at the end, particularly around retail payments. And the most exciting thing for me is it opens the door on the commercial sustainability around retail payments in the UK. So there's two dimensions for us. One is, how do we drive forward some of those really new innovations like tokenized deposits? And we're involved heavily in the regulated liability network work that's going on in the UK to take it from discovery to experimentation, and now we're looking at proof of concept. But on the retail side, it also points to how do we get the benefit from open banking, from all the investment we've made in building those ability to build valuable overlays over our already fantastic payment systems that run underneath, and how do we get some value of that for our customers, and how do we get benefit of our investment? And the point that we've been making for some time now, to make this work is you need a commercial model which at least has parity to the card model. We like cards, customers like cards. You know, my job involves looking after the card business as well as the account-to-account business. And what we're driving for at Santander is how do we get the best of both worlds to give customers the right outcomes for the right transaction. And cards work very well. Customers get great protection from cards, they get really good utility from cards, they get great ubiquity and acceptance in so many areas for making payments with a card. Account to account, not so. Account to account, because we haven't built that commercial model. And if, as the bank have told us, they'd like a resilient alternative to cards, and if, as the PSR has told us, they'd like a competitive alternative to cards, well, actually, why don't we look at the card model and say what works really well in cards? What can we learn from that to drive into account to account? And that starts to answer that question, I think, that the bank is asking in that paper about how do we build commercial sustainability for that retail space. So we're at the moment looking at what those models look like in comparison to each other. We've actually put both areas together within the Chief Payments Office in Santander. We're building a joint product, a joint commercial basis for those capabilities and starting to create strategies on how we drive that forward, alongside what new innovations will be required in the market. And that's where I come back to RLN, because we see the opportunity of tokenized money, smart money, as we really are explaining it to our board, of bringing that value to the point of transaction through tokenized deposits, I think gives a brand new opportunity, a great opportunity to meet another level of customer demand and need. And if you see the experimentation work we did, particularly we looked at the use case of online marketplaces, trying to drive out fraud, creating more confidence and certainty for customers. It's all about the value customers can get from the services we can provide.
So thank you for that. And that's all about the Bank of England paper. We've just come off main stage here at PLS. We were talking about a national payments strategy and vision. And let me just pick up on some of the things from that conversation and that you just said. We talk about open banking, we talk about account to account, we talk about the benefits and the transformation it might have. And as a consumer, my parents or my sister or my son, they don't need to know the detail about open banking and account to account. But how might that opportunity transform the way they move money, the way they bank, the way they transact? What might it look like for the average person on the street?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we keep talking about the growth of account to account And you and I both know we've had faster payments in the UK for 16 years now. So we've had account-to-account payments that, as Joe Garner said, work okay in the UK. And that's one of the things I think has held us back on some of the overlays that could create new opportunities. But what's going to be different for customers? It's leveraging that great functionality we already have in a way that gives them more utility and opportunity and value. So a good example, and I'll use my own institution, if you want to pay your credit card bill through our app today, you either pay from your own account, or if you want to pay from somewhere else, you've got to pay it with another card. That's not particularly efficient from a cost perspective, and from a customer point of view, it's complicated, it's fiddly, it takes time and it takes effort. So one of the things we're doing actually right now is looking at how we can pay credit card in the app by jumping you, if you have to go to another account, jump app to app, that journey through the open banking rails as an overlay on top of what is already a fantastic real-time payment service. So it's those kind of things that we can start to create seamless opportunities for customers. They don't need to know it's open banking. They don't need to know it's any different. What it's saying is, as Santander, we're giving you the most efficient way to live your financial life, to give you opportunity to use the functionality we have available to you to just give you better options. So pay a credit card, putting money into other accounts, paying off other debts, paying utility bills in a way that is more efficient actually gives customers time back. It makes it great from a merchant perspective because that real-time clearing from a real-time payment is actually far more efficient from them than some other payment methods. And actually it starts to bring those new opportunities in a way that customers will just use them innately and naturally in the way that they're using real-time payments today.
Brilliant. So I make a payment by my credit card bill, jumping app to app. I don't even need to know it's open banking payments. I just know that I've sorted out my credit card or debit card payment in an efficient way. Thanks for that. We spoke a little bit on stage earlier today around international examples. We have mentioned Pix in Brazil, Ideal, or I published a blog in Payments Unpacked on Monday about Ideal. We talk about Swish in Sweden. You know, there's lots of examples that are going on in other jurisdictions, other geographies. Just give me a bit of a thoughts from you around some of those good things that are happening in other countries and what that might teach us or give us hints and nudges for here in the United Kingdom.
Well, Santander is a global bank, and the UK is actually quite a small part of the group. And I think we serve around 160 million customers worldwide. So I get lots of conversations with my group colleagues about things that are going on elsewhere. And they painted a lovely picture for me recently of all the P2P services that are available around the globe. And there's this black spot in the UK because we don't have a scheme with a P2P capability. We had one in Payem. You and I know that quite well, but it didn't survive in the UK for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is what we have today actually works, as we said, okay. So some of the changes in Brazil, in Spain, in India around those P2P services have driven because there was a gap in a real requirement for customers to get more capability and functionality. And I was in Sao Paulo a couple of times this year with our colleagues in Brazil. So I managed to see Pix firsthand. I spent a bit of time talking to some of the consultants that implemented it. It didn't have an easy birth, right? But it is really flying. It's giving customers opportunity at checkout, which they wouldn't have had through other mechanisms. But you've got to remember, a number of these geographies don't have the same ingrained, mature, and incredibly functional card capability that we have here in the UK. So some of the things that are being solved for in a number of other countries are not the problem that we have in the UK. So we've got to look at what the UK opportunity is and not just look at one of the international examples and say, we want one of those. And I think that's what happened in the UK that's driven the MPV conversation is, I think we had a politician arrive in India and said, I want one of those. And that's driven us to a new level of debate. But it's great to see those developments. We can all learn from those developments. There's great case studies in all of them. But it's the mix of those learnings to bring into the UK, into the MPV, which gets us to, I think, a different place. And from a UK perspective, the frustration I think we've all had is when we did the blueprint work, 7-8 years ago now, we talked about creating a thin, capable clearing and settlement layer and opening up the market to overlay capability. But because we haven't really moved forward in our clearing and settlement capability, we haven't unleashed that overlay capability yet. So we should have been there by now, and we can be there if we can get on with creating stability and coherence within the central standards and rules to allow the market to get on and deliver. And I think what the learn for me is that the UK has a really vibrant, competitive fintech capability and banking industry. We should leverage that to create a vibrant and competitive delivery to our customers and not necessarily try and just centralize the delivery. There's an opportunity to set really good rules, standards and guardrails, but allow the market then to deliver competitively to open up some of those opportunities for customers.
Fantastic. And okay, by putting those then within the guardrails and letting the market open up to deliver opportunities in innovation. And my last question for you is purely for Santander, in terms of, give me an example of a piece of payments innovation that you're driving forward.
Yeah, and that's been a frustration for me. I think coming back to a big bank again, the amount of regulatory mandatory investment we've had to make. I think I said to someone 2 years ago, 99% of my investment budget for the year was regulatory and mandatory. I was not faced with lots of options to do innovation. So we've done a lot of work stabilizing. We're now driving to see what we can do from an elective perspective. And we've got a few innovations that we're working on, particularly around the open banking piece. So we've just announced a partnership with a firm called Token. So we were talking earlier today about partnerships between fintechs and large banks. Great example. So Token are a specialist in providing that API connectivity between banks and merchants and providing new customer utility. So it allows us to put functionality into our app. We've just launched a new banking app actually across Europe. Every country's now got the same base code. Great to leverage group capability. And then I can bring in best of breed capability like Token to say, how do I put new functionality in? And it's things like we said earlier, pay your credit card, put money into account. We have a bond account that right now you need to put a check into. But that's not the way we want to be doing business for our customers. We want them to be able to do that in the app, in our real estate. So our innovation, all of the innovation we're driving at is trying to increase the choices, the value choices for customers, to give those options to really make the best use of the conversation they're having with us through the app. So making better use of our savings accounts, our current account, the credit card we have available. We're launching new credit card capability this year. All of that's being linked together through the app that we have available for our customers. And the big one on top of that will be cross-border. So we don't today provide cross-border services in our app. We do that online. And Santander is building a global payments capability called PagoNext. You may have heard of it. It's a global fintech, wholly owned by Santander, but it's providing services to the group and probably beyond. And they'll be providing an FX capability which leverages the group footprint. So if you want to send money to the US, you want to send money to Europe or Latin America, Santander is live in all those countries. It gives us a great chance to get best cost, best routing, best FX into those institutions and out into the local clearing and doing it through our app. So that's what's coming for us. It's unleashing the group through that conversation you're having in your hand every day.
Thank you. I mean, one end you were talking about PagoNext and cross-border remittances, and then the other end you even got checks into the conversation. With less than 99 million checks processed in the UK per annum, it's quite remarkable for you to get the word check into a conversation. So as you exit those checks, we'll see reduction in those volumes. Paul, thank you for joining me in this PLS conversation this morning. I'm Mike Chambers. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast.